Today we're going to review the cousin of the other JM cigar. We had extremely good luck with the JM Nicaraguan cigar. Just for those of you who haven't seen the review, it's a fantastic cigar. It's like $2, $2.50. This is going to be the Dominican one. It has a yellow wrapper. You couldn't see it the way I stylized the filter, but the previous one was a yellow on blue band, and this is a black on yellow band. So this is sort of a little torpedo. I think it's like a Toro shape. I don't know. It's the one with the pointy top. Get this paired up real quick. Got to get a little bit of coffee in me. Let's look at the way it looks like, otherwise known as construction. All right, beautifully made. I'm telling you right now. As Brian always says, tight seams, always tight seams. Beautiful pack, beautiful end. It's all good. Now I'm gonna V-cutter the end of this, but it's always kind of funky when it's a torpedo. But it actually works. So it creates a little sliver down the back. It's actually probably 2/3 of a normal hole size, so you're okay. And you know, some of these guys who make cigars, they just click their thumb into the back of the cigar and use that as a hole. All right, here we go. Firing it up. I redid all my lighters. It's all good. I can just tell you right off the bat, for $2.50, it's unbelievably good. Just that pull right there. Just slightly snug at the beginning, but torpedoes always are, in my experience. Super mild. It's almost like just a Connecticut mild, because that's what it is. It's a Connecticut, but it's a good, solid Connecticut. This is going to be good. I need to touch this up here. We're getting into the first third. Good foot smoke, good smoke in general. And I hear people poo-poo, you know, that it's dumb that we like foot smoke. And again, I don't know about you, but at least half the experience, if not 2/3 of the experience of smoking a cigar, for me, is having the foot smoke hit my nose. I like that. It's part of just the ambient memories of everyone around me that's ever smoked cigars, and how you're going to get that unless you smell a cigar. This thing is just putting it off right now. We'll see. You know, it's funny. They say you can't really tell what kind of failure you have until about an inch in. This looks like it might actually take a little while to pull down here. Connecticut's don't usually take that long to smoke down, but I put a couple big pulls in this, and it's just barely touching the edge there. Super mild. I mean, like, it's almost like nicely mild. I'm barely getting any aftertaste at all. But again, for $2.50, like I said, the one that we really want is a good Connecticut. And this might just be it. I'm new to these cheap cigars here. I've seen these things on the ground floor of the places. I got this at the liquor store that I found out had cigars. I was up real late one night, and I'm driving around, and I see this big giant neon sign that said cigars. I was like, we'll see. Because most of these gas stations, they have these like plexiglass cigar containers, right? And they're all on an angle. Problem is, they're not the slightest bit humidored. They're not protected. They're not sealed. And so you're getting a stick that's as dry as a bone. So if you're going to get it from one of these kind of leaning plexiglass things, you should, unless you're just desperate, which you probably are because you're buying it from one of these things. And believe me, I've been there. You need to age that thing for a week or two in your local in your humidor, because otherwise it's just going to burn up like a match. It's super pleasant. Super duper pleasant. Just feeling it here. Very solid pack. I think I'm going to take the band off right away because I've noticed that when things are snug, it could be the band. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this band right off. I never really find it necessary to get all dainty with band removal. People get all flustered. Oh my gosh, I might rip a cigar in half. No. All right, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty snug about this last third here. Nothing wrong. Of course, with the torpedo, when they crimp that end, it's going to crimp and tighten all this tobacco towards the back of the construction, so you are going to get a snug pull for a little while at least. This is a really cool cigar. This is like a very classic cigar, I would say from the 70s on the Connecticut level, which is really a compliment. And the reason why I say that is that the foot smoke just now just took me back to being like between 7 and 10 at my grandfather's car dealership. His employees used to smoke Connecticut's, and it used to smell very similar to this. But you also get a sense of quality from this tobacco itself. In case you haven't seen these things. These are the ones that actually have I'll blow out the filter on this so you won't see it, but it's a double shot espresso thing from it's from Starbucks, but I don't buy it at Starbucks. You buy it at 7-Eleven. But this is the light version that only has 70 calories. And it used to be a light silver top, and now it's like a light blue top. I don't quite understand it. Maybe it's like the Coors technology where the mountains turn blue, right? Just a great Connecticut stick. I think I might have found my personal choice for a cheap stick that's just got a good, robust Connecticut flavor. No strength, of course. Very low body, right? But a couple things. This doesn't taste cheap. That's the first thing you need to know. And it looks like a long filler, man. I've just been pushing on this thing, and I've only got a 1/4 inch down. Yeah, just sort of a leathery Connecticut flavor, And I just got this out of the liquor store. So I didn't, not this morning, but yesterday. So I haven't had a chance to get it to, warm up inside my humidor. It does look like, yeah, I've got a single leaf on the outside that cracked, probably just due to a lack of moisture at its destination. It's a little oxidized. This is not the manufacturer whatsoever. This is my local liquor store trying to move a fair amount of cigars in a very small space. It's a giant liquor store, but it's like a convenience store, liquor store. But they have this little closet in the back. It's probably like a, 5x4. And you go in and you're just wrapped in these cigars. He's got all the sort of the most popular ones that are good sellers, like a lot of Rocky Patel stuff. He has Punch, Padron, Oliva. He always keeps a Baccarat box in there for me. But he's got a whole JM section at the bottom. He doesn't have the blue label, but that's okay. There's a ton of these yellow label Connecticut's. So, yeah, I just got a little bit of a hairbone here on this particular leaf right here. It's not going to be a problem at all. Again, if it's not a hole in the binder, And in the wrapper, then you're fine. It's like one of those old Warner Brothers cartoons. If you take a puff on this thing and it's just exhausting clouds of smoke all over the actual body of the cigar, then you have a bad situation on your hands, right? That's a super nice taste. It's just so mild. It's just super duper mild, like a good tea, Yeah, this might be my new go-to for I want to smoke a little more often than I should. Regiment. This was $2.79 out of my local store. Can you imagine buying these in bulk? It's gonna be like $1. Yeah, just a little bit of oxidization. There might even be, I don't know if I'm looking at ash or mold. If you get a moldy stick, you got it in your humidor, you humidored it, and you, a lot of times when you're putting the devices in your humidor, they're super duper wet. If you bump a cigar during the loading process, or for these humidors that actually have units that stick into the hood, and you fill them up with your distilled water, and you put them up, and you try to shake them out, and you put them in the hood of your humidor, and you close it, and some of it can drip directly down onto whatever stick that's on the top. When that kind of thing happens, there's almost nothing it can do but start up the culture that's on the outside of either the wrapper or within the cigar itself, and so you get these little tiny dusty, white spores. And you have to be very careful of those, because for the human body doesn't like to ingest spores, But extreme cold will kill a culture. So I haven't done this myself because I haven't had any bad sticks. I had one the other day where it actually, I filled up my humidor, exactly the problem I told you about. I actually overfilled one and didn't shake it out enough, and so a little bit of water dripped on some of my CO first thirds, and they got a little bit of fuzz on the outside, just ever so slightly. And then I wiped it off with the towel, and I realized it was only on the outside of the wrapper, not on the inside. So the cigar itself on the inside was okay. Not quite sure how that happened. But if you do get it on your cigar, the biggest piece of advice I've seen unanimously is to wipe them all down carefully and with a dry paper towel. You don't want to put any more moisture on them, because then you'll activate more spores. Then you wrap them up in a bag. Pardon me. And then you stick them in the shower. Stick them in. What the hell? I'm supposed to go to the shower, I guess. Stick them in your freezer. Jesus. Stick them in your freezer, freeze them down, and supposedly that really super duper 32 degree temperature will kill the spores. And I don't know how many days you should leave them in there. I guess go a week or something like that. If you're about to lose a $10 cigar, who cares? Do what you got to do to get it to work. Oh, I finally figured out what that sound is. If you see me looking over here, I've got a ton of birds that are doing all their morning rituals here. I always said getting up early was for the birds. Didn't realize how on point that was. Look at that smoke. Huge. So JM understands smoke is important. Love it. Guess we're about 15 minutes in. Only about a 3/4 of an inch down. It's going well. No transition. I doubt there's going to be a transition. So let me just say this to you. If you don't want to watch a long cigar talk, this is the review. JM Connecticut, Dominican Republic cigar, Connecticut, is fantastic. It seems to be a long filler for $2.75 and some change. Getting this slow of a burn on this quality of Connecticut, you can't go wrong. The construction's fantastic. It's firm, so it feels like a nice, just a nice product. The only thing that's slightly stiff is where the band was, because they are going to have to pull this thing down into a torpedo tip on this particular one. They make this in everything. They had big fat Churchills there. They had Toros. They had Robustos. You can get this in any shape you like. Not every stick is exactly the same, of course, but if 99% of these were exactly like the one I'm smoking, this is going to be your stick for a good go-to Connecticut. No strength, very low body, huge smoke output. It just feels good. The draw feels good. So there's your review if you got a book. If you want to chill out and hang on, smoke your cigar, look at your phone, your iPad, your tablet, welcome back. The nice thing about a Connecticut wrapper, and Connecticut in general, is that you get this nostalgic scent and taste of a cigar. But it's almost as if, like if you were to smoke a really full-body cigar, right? The foot smoke's going to smell a little more intense, and definitely inside your mouth, you're going to get the swimming, amazing kaleidoscope of flavor, man. But a Connecticut is almost like having the cigar about 10 feet away. Like someone else is smoking the cigar, and all you're doing is kind of ingesting a little bit of their foot smoke as they sit near you, right? Except you're the one smoking the cigar. So, for those of you who smoke around folks that don't necessarily appreciate your hobby, the amount of stank on you is going to be a lot less, I think, with a cigar like this. It might even be that more nostalgic flavor that they're used to, When I do a really intense pull like that, the only other flavor I'm tasting is just a little bit of a floral flavor, which, given this comes from a plant, I have to just assume that it's part of the, was it the chlorophyll? Whatever that is, the green stuff, the photosynthesizing stuff. Now, just judging from the ash, it doesn't appear to be tremendously densely packed. It looks like the top is floured just a little bit. No problem. As long as the cigar stays lit, I could care less how long the ash stays on the end. I just don't want to be relighting this thing constantly. That Christoph, oh my God, that thing, it was the Criollo Matador. That thing it must have gone out a half a dozen times, by the time it was over. It was the most anticlimactic 2-hour stick I've ever had in my life. But we'll probably pull that review. Yeah, see, this came off beautifully here. Let's give it a few puffs. I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite sticks ever, called the Baccarat. I've got these little tiny Robusto Baccarats I get from that same liquor store. I can just tell you without reviewing it, for $6, and if you get them online in a box, it's like $3.50 a stick. Hands down, my favorite mild stick of all time. But we'll give it a full proper review next. I almost feel like just doing it back to back. Just finish this one, go get the other one. I think what's interesting about smoking a cigar is that I'm coming up on that flap. You'll never be able to see it probably, but it's all right. Absolutely fine. Towards the last third, of course, on most cigars, no matter how unbelievable the flavors are towards the end, typically when you get that, if you nub it like me, which means you go down to the point you can't hold it anymore because it's so hot, You know you're buying the right cigars when you want to nub all of them. I'm just going to make up that term, nub. When you nub it, it gets you that really intense tobacco flavor, no matter how amazing the cigar is, and it sort of chases you away from the next one because you get all your strength at the end. And I'll be really interested to see if we can't get some strength out of this one, considering this is just this. I'm looking at this cigar and I think if I were to keep a small little portable humidor, which I've got full of maybe 3 or 4 of these, and just keep it in my car, and no matter where I am, I got a cutter, a lighter, and one of these. I could smoke this. I'd see if I was going to go eat a dinner with a bunch of females inside a house, I probably wouldn't pull one of these out and knock it out before that event. But if I was going to be doing a picnic or tailgating or whatever, going to a concert, I'd definitely keep these in the back, and I don't think anyone would have a problem unless they're going to stick their tongue down my mouth. Luckily from my lady likes a man to smell like a man. That's what she said. I was like, we're made for each other. Oh, man. Yeah, it's just a slight hint of a sort of a floral flavor. I mean, we're talking maybe 15% of the pull there was a little bit of a floral hint. Very nice. Very good. It's very organic. I think that, most of us that smoke cigars, we do have that appreciation for, I don't know, it's like something organic. We're smoking dried tobacco leaves. It's not a cigarette. It's not paper, it's been treated with a chemical. This is a real cigar. This is a real tobacco product, And so there's that sort of earthy thing. For those of you like Cabernet wines, you like that earthier taste. Just something about it, We come from the bowels of the earth anyway. At least our vessel does, right? Oh, and this video will be the one that we kick off the channel with. So if you see this video many, many years from now, if I keep doing this, this was the one that actually started whatever brand I'm going to come up with. I think I'm going to use real-time cigar review. I haven't seen anyone really do that. Everybody, again, if you want the short attention span theater, there's a million places you can go to get cigar reviews. I'm going to try to infuse, to use a cigar term, a cigar review with some other chatter. There's a guy, Ted Barris, who I really like. He's a fun goofball, as he would call himself, but he eats hot peppers. He eats hot peppers, like mega hot peppers, 2.5 million Scoville things, But he also does Beer Time with Ted. He does these WTF reviews where he eats something utterly nuts. He'll drink something crazy, eat a bug. I really like that guy. He's just an endearing person, He's up in Oregon. But so he does these like Beer Time with Teds, and he locks it down to an hour. So he just gets a beer and he talks to you for 1 hour. He just picks a subject and goes for it. And I figure, hey, let's just mix what I do anyway with a cigar when you're not watching and chat it out, right? This is our new form of communication anyway, right? It's like the old thing of Facebook. I don't really have any real friends. I've got a ton of virtual ones. Well, this is sort of the new way. This is sort of the new way we get to meet each other, and it's not impossible to meet people face to face. The thing that always gets me is Facebook's kind of turned into this showcase of, see how much better my life is than yours, And, I dated someone this summer that really was into Facebook, and just, it was one of these situations where we went to go see a sunset, okay? I live in Huntington Beach, so let me tell you, the sunsets with the Huntington Beach Pier, it is gorgeous, right? Southern California, for those who don't know. And I realized that even though I've been to the beach at sunsets several times, I've never quite just taken my gal and gone down there. Because when you live here, you're everywhere during sunsets, you know. But you don't make this specific effort to go down and do it. And her and I had just finished dinner, and I said, let's just pull over here and let's go see the sunset. Okay, great. And it's warm. It was a warm summer, August evening. Tons of bonfires, so you have all this beautiful wood smoke going on, all these people being real quiet and doing their thing. And we get over to the sunset, and it's already planting itself in the ocean, right? And she gets out her iPhone and starts, or Android, and we both had Galaxy Note 3s, and she starts taking a picture of the sunset, and then turns around and says, okay, let's get our picture together. So we got our picture together. Now, again, the sun's about to do its thing. It's about to be done, right? So she turns it around, then starts taking pictures of the pier, then starts editing the photographs, editing us, editing the photographs, and making sure that within the next 60 seconds, to 5 minutes, are photographs on Facebook. By the time she turned around to look at me so we could have a romantic moment together, the sun was gone completely. And I just thought, there you go. There is a perfect example of how you're not living your life. You're trying to throw our picture up there in front of everybody to say, look how good looking we look, blah, 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 and not living our life, And consequently, that was the last time I saw her that night. Didn't need any more of that. And then I just utterly turned off my Facebook account. So I was just like, fuck this, man. I'm not going to be involved with this bullshit, And even when I want to post something great happens in my life and I want to post it on Facebook, I feel like, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically showing off that something great happened. It's like, that's all right. I'd rather save it all up. Someone has dinner with me, a phone call with me, and they actually have some mystery in their life, right? They're like, well, what's going on with you? And then I go, let me tell you what's going on with me. And then boom, 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 we have a good conversation or good dinner or something, right? And it's exciting as opposed to, I saw that on Facebook. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. When you get with your friends and you've put your whole life up there, you can't help but paint a reality that's not really occurring. Or it's such a partial reality, there's more to it. Everything in your life's a Paul Harvey story. Oh, you saw me with that girl that was really hot? Oh, well, let me tell you, she was crazy. Luckily, I haven't had crazy in a long time. I have dated crazy in my lifetime. Like, lunatic nuts, man. It's bizarre. It's no mystery that when you're pretty, you really have an option in life to either, especially if you're female, because men are so desperate, you have the option of learning something or... And becoming like everybody else, getting your fallback plan, all that stuff, or marrying into money and then never getting your life together, right? And it used to be that people would marry into families, marry a dude and the dude would take care of the woman and you'd have all your puppies and then maybe get your trophy wife later if you're an asshole, right? I'm not judging, but I did just judge. But the new trend is these good-looking girls who never get a brain, they run off in their 20s and they get into a relationship. I've run into 2 of these recently. And they spend 10 to 15 years in a relationship where the guy's basically just having this hot thing to have sex with, someone to, warm up to on a cold night, someone to go to the movies with. But at all times, they have no intent of staying with dipshit. Beautiful girls, not that smart. And so they simply don't keep them. So these girls are dumped out somewhere in their 30s. And they're not quite aware of what's going on because they never massaged their brain. They never got any education beyond just the basics to get to whatever job they have, right? And they essentially give up all their childbearing years with these guys that just want to sleep with them. And nothing's hideous or anything. It's not like they have really super bad relationships or, abuse or anything, but they just never cross that line. The guy's like, man, there's no way I'm getting trapped with this chick. It's like, what is it? Jerome said in Under the Cherry Moon, he said, he said, what happens when you follow a stupid kid home? He goes, you knock on the door, and sure enough, a stupid person answers the door. And so these guys, we all know from our species instincts inside of us, we know if we have babies with stupid, well, that's all we're going to have for kids. And there's nothing like wasting all your seed in a big cesspool of stupid, right? Of course, the kiss of death is having him so early you don't know where the girl's going. Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah, so I've definitely had some interesting experience. And these are beautiful people, super nice, super sweet. They don't know what's going on. They don't know why they're in those situations. But unless you have an epiphany late in your 30s and you go, oh my God, I realized I've been so naive and I really need to learn something new and I need to line my outsides with my insides. I need to get what my destiny is, Sometimes it's just too late. You're an old dog and you need a new trick. All right, this thing is super consistent. The pull is just slightly on the snug side. It's not like the Christoph where I'm going to be in sore cheek therapy for 10 weeks after that thing. My God, that thing was like smoking a kitchen sponge. It was so hard to pull it. It kept putting itself out. There was no blocks in it. I don't know if it was just packed too much, put too much tobacco in that thing. But man, that thing was just rough. It's like that crime prevention dog. It was rough. I did not just say that. Yep, the burn is good. I did have one side that I lit late, so you could just see the I don't want to call it let's just call it cigar genealogy, burn genealogy there, where that was my mistake when I lit it, and so it's got a little bit of a hump there, so I'm gonna get rid of that. I got this baby full. I love this thing. There we go. Zapped. I'm working this thing a little faster than I normally would, but I'm normally doing something else that's a little more slow. So I'm just keeping the ash down about 1/2 inch or a centimeter, if you want to go that route. I can never understand this thing. Doesn't want to give it up. So it's starting to strengthen up a little bit here. I have to say I'm utterly confused with standard and metric use in Europe. Because you go to England and they're still using standard a lot, but then half the signs are kilometers. And you're like, make up your mind, dude. Am I miles away or kilometers away? In the end, we just basically count the number down. It's not like we have a 5,280 foot, measuring stick on our mind. It's like, oh, now it is 10 miles away. Therefore, there's 52,800 miles away. No. It's a 10, then it becomes a 9, then it becomes an 8, and you sort of have a pace in your mind, and it's like, it goes a little faster if it's a metric measurement, right? Extremely consistent, just so you know. Like, I'm puffing this thing a little faster, which is giving me a little bit of the, just a bit of the floral. I might be getting just an eensy amount of strength, and it's probably because of my speed on this thing. I went ahead and smoked right past the flaky part of the wrapper. There's just about a 1/4 inch of the wrapper that is flaky. I see these cigar reviews where these guys just lose their mind over, a loose leaf on the wrapper, and it's like it just burned right past it, And what's nuts about those guys is that they'll actually smoke ones that are wrapped like footballs and camouflage, and as soon as you vary the wrapper type on the outside, they're all burning at different levels and different speeds, and so they always crackle away and flower away and stuff, and it doesn't seem to hurt the brands. In fact, it's a novelty of why people buy certain brands. I smoked the one that looks like a football. It's really cute. It's a big torpedo on both sides, and it just had literally the little bit of tobacco laid in there. It looks like the strings of or the laces of a football. Laces out. Yeah, no, it's great. Interesting story about the meter. The meter has always blown my mind because it's always I guess it's based on the circumference of the Earth, and I forgot how the calculation's done. But there used to be a parameridian stone, which is the capstone of a pyramid outside of the Great Pyramid at Giza, and it used to be on display. And it was this beautiful object that had the proof that the Egyptians had figured out the meter. And the meter is not something that's, I think we tracked it in the 1700s or something. I mean, it's a really recent discovery for us. But of course, they want to make sure that we don't understand our past, because that reveals a whole nother piece of history and a whole nother piece of how absolutely retarded we are today. Because we just don't have a grasp on the technology. They had obviously stacked 2.5 million rocks 550 feet high, right? We can't do it today. But yeah, this parameridian stone used to be outside. So you go down, you'd circle the Great Pyramid, and this thing was kind of sitting outside on this rock. And again, when they measured it out, you would immediately find out that they had, I think it's 1 meter. It was 1 meter in all directions. Okay. And then during, I guess it was during the filming of a documentary, the local authorities, and there's a whole band of scientists that, or I should say archaeologists, pseudo-archaeologists, that are powered by the Museum of Cairo and the government of Egypt, and probably, I think some agencies may be just above those guys, but they watch what people are able to figure out about the ruins of this place. And as soon as they start figuring out something they're not supposed to figure out, authorities move in and swap out pieces or steal pieces from viewing. But during the filming of this documentary, the government, this thing's been on display for, I don't know, a century. They took the stone and replaced it with another one, which was recently made, and pretty much got rid of any idea that the Egyptians had figured out the meter. And when you study the pyramids, you figure out they actually understood pi, because the pyramid's dimensions are absolutely a result of pi. And it has to do with drawing a circle up from the base and creating a hemisphere using pi, and then taking a copy of that and rotating it the other way, and that's how you find out the dimensions of the actual pyramid itself. So again, pi wasn't something supposedly discovered until the Greeks came up with it, right? I mean, you have the Parthenon in Athens, right? You have them completely stealing the technology of Egypt, quite literally the columns and how the temples worked out. And they were able to move their columns further apart, which is always a sign of progress in the ways of architecture. You know, the pillars are closer together in Egypt, but you know, they got everything from Egypt, everything. And you know, we think that the pyramids go pre-Ice Age, that we've actually been looking at a pre-Ice Age civilization when you look at the pyramids, and the evidence that they're made when they're made and who made them is ridiculous. I mean, it's like a piece of graffiti on a ceiling is how they figured out who made the Great Pyramid. Just paint on a ceiling. Oh, okay, that must be the guy. Meanwhile, you've got, you know, John Lennon's signature right next to it, you know. He didn't really sign the top, I don't think. But a lot of world leaders have, and aristocratic kids have gotten up there, and of course, local graffiti artists. But I think that's fascinating, you know. It really makes you wonder how far back cigars go. The romanticized story is that the Europeans came over and they found Native Americans rolling these babies up. And it's interesting that someone would, I think every invention is sort of, especially initial inventions of any kind, are serendipitously discovered, right? The wheel was most likely just a rock that was sort of spherical, and they watched it roll down a hill, and or maybe it was a log, or someone stepped on a log and it rolled, and they fell on their ass, and they went, oh, we take cross sections of this thing, and then put some spindle wheels on there, and maybe we can come up with a little jalopy, right? And so it makes me wonder how they got these. You take they were drying out food. I guess they were figuring out that drying out food was something that allowed it to last longer. You take beef and probably kill an animal, slice it up into pieces, and then you hang the meat out there like we always saw the Native American pictures to turn it into jerky. And then you just simply do that with a leaf, I guess. Maybe a leaf dies, maybe a plant dies or gets sliced by some storm, and then you find it later on, and it's going to naturally ferment wherever the heck it is. And I guess somebody rolled that baby up, stuck it up their nostril, and lit one end. It's really weird. Can you imagine? I've seen these photographs of these chiefs with these cigars that are like, if that's what you want to call them. Of course, they have peace pipes too, right? But, it's like a foot long. And they have two of them jammed up each nostril. And so they light both, and they just sat around and held this stuff, and I guess just blew it out their nose, or blew it out their mouth, I guess, How amazing would it be to see the Native Americans before they were slaughtered, to see what their life was really like, My first screenplay was all based on Native American lore, and so it was really tough finding lore and documentation about Native Americans that wasn't sold to the white man to make money, because the way that the historians started to document this pretty much in the early 1900s was they said that we realized that once we wipe them out, unfortunately, get them down to like a little tiny reservoir of species on this planet, and they went in to say, I'll pay you money to tell me about your tribe. That's where you have things like, dream catchers. Dream catchers are complete bullshit. It's just something they made up for the white man. But I actually had an employee. He was Native American. He got his degree in mathematics in Stanford, and he got it through like an affirmative action Native American thing, which I think is great for Native Americans especially. Super smart guy. But he sat me down because I was writing this thing. I kept just asking him questions about things, and man, they have some wild beliefs. They have it's all tribal, right? So, but they believe in these things called like soul stealers, and if you had a grudge against another tribe or another individual, you would do this ritual with your shaman, and you would summon spirits of those who essentially haven't left the earth plane because they were really nasty when they were here, and you can sick them on people, and you'd have to, at the other side, do a ritual to get that person off of you. And so your luck would start going south, and they'd say, oh my God, I must have offended somebody. I got a gene, was it soul stealer? I was going to say gene stealer. Soul stealer on me, something like that. And you have to get them off of you. It's really strange. But it's amazing how the differences between tribes in different areas. I had to search for a tribe because I have a storyline that had a premise that was locked in place, and I had to find a tribe somewhere in America that believed the basis of the theme that I had. I finally found it, but super consistent, guys. Huge clouds. You should see the clouds when they roll over this camera. Probably like 10-foot cloud that starts hitting the air behind the camera and distributing. It's a beautiful, clear day. There's actually some real clouds over the ocean over there. No clouds anywhere else because there never is any clouds in California. Until planes make them. Yeah, it's nice. You know, the ash is staying on about quarter inch. And right now, since I touched that thing up, it's, if you want to talk about seams, instead of talking about the seams on the tobacco itself, there's definitely a seam that occurs, I think, in great wrappers, where the lip of it actually creates a beautiful curve into the ash. So the wrapper goes up, makes a curve, and it's got a nice black caramelized ring around the outside. That's when you know you have a quality construction on a cigar. And remember, we have three things that are burning here. We have the filler, which is the inside, we have the binder, and then we have this wrapper. And when they all work together, it's a good sign. So this thing is really leveling out here beautifully. $2.79, and I'm sure that's not remotely how cheap you can get these things. So JM's Dominican cigar is, in terms of a inexpensive cigar, easily a 90 right here. If we want to put it directly into the realm of cheap cigars, inexpensive cigars, I should say, cheap indicates quality, an inexpensive cigar, and you keep that category separate from like a the featherweight in boxing, right? We don't let Muhammad Ali get in this realm, right? Let's keep the Olivias and the Drew Estates over there. If you have inexpensive cigars, this would be like a 99% cigar in terms of what you're going to get for your cash and the taste you're going to get. Just very nice and light. Yeah, I mean, Retro Hill, you get a little bit of the Retro Hill enhanced taste, but you're not going to get more taste. You're just getting that slightly different flavor. I don't feel like my breath actually has a tremendous amount of tobacco in it, which is nice. If I brush my teeth and eat a meal and take a shower, of course, I don't think anyone's going to notice I've been inside of a cigar box today. Look at that. It's fantastic. Every once in a while, you can actually hear the cigar burn. You get that crackling cigar wrapper sound. I just heard it just now. But again, everything's moving beautifully. And let's see, we're into this 50 minutes. Okay. I've got another at least 2 inches to go on this, most likely. So we'll see when I get another 30 minutes out of this thing. Again, you can bail at any time. This is just a companion cigar dude, just in case you find yourself in your patio and you're like, damn it, I need someone to chill with. You get your booze, you got your cigar, you got your weather. Maybe you're all bundled up at night. Maybe you're catching a little rays like me. I definitely am a sun worshiper, I think. Vitamin D from your pituitary gland, it can't create healthy vitamin D without sun rays. And so you can take a pill, but it mostly passes through your body. So if you really want to stay healthy, definitely get some sun on you. And as long as you don't get too much, you don't need any type of blockage. If you need sunblock, it probably just means you're about to stay out too long. But I come from the Midwest where they call us rednecks, right? Farmer John did not die of skin cancer. Farmer John didn't get any skin cancer. Farmer John didn't die of any cancer. And Farmer John spent every single waking moment underneath the sun with his, he's, every once in a while they might have hats, but most of the farmers when I was a kid, they just have like a build baseball hat or something. So it protects a little bit, but their neck obviously gets red. Super pleasant. Almost, the Baccarat actually has a sweet wrapper. So when I say something has sweetness in it, I'm not talking about the Baccarat sort of, it's not infused. The Baccarat just has a natural sweet wrapper. But this is, maybe it's young enough that it has just a hint of almost like floral sweetness, like tobacco sweetness. And when you were a kid and you ate grass, it tastes like that grass sweet stuff they used to sell you at the grass sweet shots at, what's that place that makes the 1,000-calorie health shakes? Jamba Juice, that's what it is. I don't know if you guys have those where you are. Jamba Juice moved into California, north and south, somewhere in the late 90s. And, of course, it's this promise that you can have this super healthy thing. And, it's made of all these fruit juices. And it is made of fruit juices. It is real. But there's all the sugar added to it, so you're ingesting pretty much a Big Mac. Big Mac, I think, is about 550 calories. You'll go to an amusement park and you'll get a cookie with like 2 chocolate chip cookies with some ice cream milk. That's 550 calories. So when you drink a Jamba Juice and you're trying to lose weight, you're basically eating a Big Mac. And if that's your whole lunch, then you're fine. But if you do like most of us, you pair it with something else and you're way over your index for the day, right? I used to get this peanut butter one when I was gaining all this weight. Oh my God, I think it was like 900 calories. It's delicious, but I think my face swelling up is, I think, less delicious. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day. I got up, it was 43 degrees, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm hitting my phone going, oh my God, it's way too cold. And I waited an hour, and it was 57. I was like, all right, now we get out and do this. It's probably about 60, 62. Quite pleasant. Very good. Now I am pushing through this thing, so I definitely would classify this as a long filler, which almost blows my mind that this is 280, and we're at nearly 50 minutes. I probably have another half hour in here, and I paid less than $3 for this thing from a retail brick and mortar store. So, yeah, if you have a meditation moment that you like to use cigars to think, to do something, to smoke while you watch videos or something on YouTube, this is definitely going to be a go-to cigar. So, and the firmness that was underneath the band has completely and utterly disappeared. It's now, I wouldn't say it's spongy. I would say it's very loosely packed now, and I like that. And the smoke is very cold. That's the nice thing about it. But even down by the torpedo compression, starting to lighten up a little bit. There's only a little bit of firmness down here towards the bottom, and that's just the way that this particular model of cigar works. Let me test the pull again. I mean, if you had a like a CO First Third is an effortless pull, clear to the very end. A Baccarat's effortless all the way to the end. This would be the first measurable notch up in firmness, but not much more than that. So it's very nice. And the wrapper is definitely drying out as I smoke. And again, this came out of a liquor store humidor, which is actually fairly well taken care of. But I didn't moisten this thing up on my own, so I'm getting a little bit of crack on the wrapper here, but big deal. It's like eating a thin crust pizza. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just thin, right? Since we got some time, let's talk about thin crust pizza. How about that? Now, I'm from Kansas, and the famous fast food pizza place franchise in America is Pizza Hut. It started in Wichita, Kansas, in this little tiny hut. And I believe the hut completely burned down, and they rebuilt it, then they moved out, of course. It was about the size of a photomat booth. It was really tiny. I don't even know how they put an oven in this thing, but it's famous. When you're driving by one of the streets, they'll say, oh, that was the first Pizza Hut. All right. The Pizza Hut has been completely taken over, I think, by PepsiCo or something, so all the ingredients are GMO. It's no longer the way it used to taste. Domino's pizza used to taste amazing, and then they finally GMO'd all the ingredients and really reduced all the quality in it. And it doesn't taste the way it used to taste. Sbarro's Pizza doesn't taste the way it used to taste. So all these companies have been bought out by these big manufacturers, and Cisco's gone in there, I think, and just replaced all the ingredients, and so nothing tastes the same. Taco Bell doesn't taste the same. PepsiCo took them over. But when Pizza Hut was brand new in the 70s, it was almost like Coors Beer. Coors Beer didn't become a national brand until Smokey and the Bandit came out, and then everybody wanted to drink it, right? The whole thing was him smuggling Coors across borders, as if he's somehow violating prohibition in the 70s. What a joke, right? Made for a great movie, though. Pontiac was absolutely brilliant in creating that film, putting the Trans Am in there, right? You have one of the coolest modern cars made in the 70s, and based on the Firebird. And who didn't want that car? My God, it was either a Trans Am with the T-top, or it was a Corvette with the T-top, right? But Pizza Hut used to be this amazing experience, and I actually asked my family if they remember the way that Pizza Hut used to be shipped to you, or the way that you used to go pick it up from the store. And I was in this little tiny town, right? I was 100 miles east of Wichita. So we got one. Somebody was brilliant enough to bring in a franchise. And there's an interesting thing about the franchise and the red roof that I'll tell you here in a second. But what happened was they would make the pizza, and, it's pizza, and they have to deliver it to you or give you something that you can take it home in. And, of course, the pizza box is one of the most famous ways that pizzas arrive to you. But Pizza Hut didn't do that at first. Pizza Hut had this paper, almost like butcher paper, right? And it had the logo of the franchise on the outside. And what they would do is they wrap it up and they'd create this pyramid, this like circular pyramid thing. And you would grab the top of the pyramid and take it home. And this paper would just hang on to the pizza. It was fantastic. And then you bring it home, all right, put it on the kitchen table. Of course, everyone's frothing for this marinara smell. And you crack open the top of the paper. And so you'd have this huge, just beautiful pizza smell fill up your house. And I mean, you would just be salivating, Does the name Pavlov ring a bell? One of those situations. I still haven't found anybody who remembers that. But you can actually go back, I think, online and look at YouTube videos of their very first commercials that they made back in the day. And it actually has this pyramid delivery mechanism, right? Which, I think New York had the pizza box way before that. So it was just interesting. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. So, Pizza Huts. Pizza Huts had this crazy rooftop. And so the rooftop, I don't think, you'll see them around your town if you used to have one, and now they're co-opted by something else, or they're takeout locations only. But now Pizza Huts are mixed with Taco Bells, and they're in, strip malls, so there's no rooftop. When they built their own building, though, they had this lipstick red roof, which was utterly brilliant, because you drive through a city or a town, and you're looking for food, especially if you're in the Midwest, where you spend a lot of time in the country as you're driving between towns, right? Because you're not always in a city, you're in the country. And as soon as you pull into a little tiny town and they had the red roof over there, you didn't have to think, you didn't have to look at what was written on the top. You knew it was a Pizza Hut. Now, there's a couple exceptions, because I think Dairy Queen had a barn top that was very similar to that. But Pizza Hut started taking over and doing really, really well and blowing away all the competition in the Midwest. And Domino's was really sort of a new thing as well, but there's this story, and I think it's true. Nice, man. But someone infiltrated the company from another pizza competitor. And so this person, I've always heard it was a female. Not that I'm trying to be a chauvinist or anything. It was this woman, I think, the way it was described to me, is got into the Wichita, Kansas division, which is headquarters, which I think has moved to Oklahoma now. My mom used to work for them for a very short period of time, I think, in her 30s. After the franchise was massive, but they had an infiltrator come in and suggest that the new way they were going to build the buildings was to build shake roofs on top of these Pizza Hut buildings, which had the same shape, which was very specific, almost looked like a Chevy logo on top. But she said, we're going to make these out of wood-colored shake roofs. And so now that trademark red roof was gone. And I lived in a place called Chanute, and the next town north was Humboldt. The next town up was Iola. And Humboldt has one of these. If you just take the take the old 169 north, you go right through Humboldt, and you'll see one of these, I think, off to your right. And maybe it's torn down now. I don't know if it's there, but it was the only shake roof one I remembered. But that immediately killed the sales of the organic sales of someone driving through your town and noticing you had a Pizza Hut and going in to buy food. You know, they have a whole buffet lunch thing too, which used to be really good. My hometown now has one that's called Opie's. I think it's called Opie's. It's on Main Street. And it is the old-fashioned Pizza Hut recipe. And so it's just a local family making pizza, and someone figured out how to make the old pizza. And, man, it is just as good as the old 70s, 80s pizza before it got taken over. It's a little bit of trivia there. Look at your Pizza Hut roof, and you'll find out what era your Pizza Hut was built in. And it must have been like early 80s. But I think most of the franchises were actually built. The early ones that caused the corporation to explode, they were built in the 70s, early 80s before this person got in there, whoever that was. And we actually have a Taco Bell headquarters here, and I believe it's Costa Mesa. If it's not Costa Mesa, it's just on the tip of Irvine. But I went to a party once, a video game party, and somebody works at that place, and they brought Taco Bell to the party. And the funny thing was, they invited me, and I was the oldest guy in the group. And I eat at this barbecue joint in Costa Mesa called Beach Pit Barbecue, which just got taken over by another group of championship barbecue people. So I'm really excited to see what goes on there. But they have this really inexpensive, like $30 or something. You can just get a massive amount of barbecue, from chicken to beef to tri-tip, whatever. And so I got this huge bundle of this stuff, and they gave me a good price because I know them. And I took it to the party, and everyone just mauled this thing. Because as soon as I opened up all the food and all this barbecue smell starts coming out, everybody who didn't eat, and who likes barbecue is just flocking. So they ate all my stuff, and it was awesome. Very happy. And then this woman shows up with all this Taco Bell, and nobody was hungry. And they look at this shit food, and they look at the stuff they ate for me, which was all, grass-fed, amazing beef and chicken and stuff. And they didn't buy this stuff. So I sat with this woman eventually, because she just had this pile of rotting, processed food. And it was right when the controversy came out about how Taco Bell's meat is less than 11% beef. It's a bunch of fillers and crazy weird stuff that's not considered beef, like a bunch of ground up elbows and gross stuff. Right? If you think hot dogs are bad, Del Taco beef is Taco Bell beef is really, really weird. Although Del Taco's getting kind of weird too. If you're eating a taco and the beef sticks in your teeth and feels like you're eating nose cartilage, you're eating a binder. That's what that is, right? But this woman sat with me, and I don't know her name or anything, but she admitted to me that a couple of very interesting things about Taco Bell. One, she said that their meat is... Yeah, I asked her, I said, what do you think of this controversy that's going around? You guys are suing the guy that said that it's less than 11% beef, because the guy who's actually petitioning this thing is involved in the creation of the beef. That's why he was so mortified. I don't know if he's some executive or what the hell his deal was, but they tried to sue him, saying that it's 90+% beef. And their whole contingency was it comes out of a cow, therefore everything in a cow is beef, right? Yeah, right. But she said, yeah, she looked at me and she kind of said, well, you're lucky if it's 11% beef. It's really hideous stuff. And she goes, we just use these seasonings on things that have consistency of meat, and that's what you're eating. So like, that's gross. She said, yeah. Then she said to me that every single few years, but I think she even said every year, they actually try to shave off a millimeter off the size of the shell to actually reduce the amount of ingredients that they pack up in a particular taco and ship to you. So I thought that was interesting. And then it was, I don't know, probably about a year or two after they had this E. coli scare of scallions, right? Now, somewhere in the world, in America, they had this scare that people were dying of E. coli from some contaminated onions, scallions, right? Those are the little round tubular onions that you cut up, and they're little green things. And that's, they had a Mexican pizza is what they had, and they still have it. But the best ingredient on the whole thing was the scallions sprinkled on the top. And she admitted to me that they, everyone was afraid of eating these scallions, and it was a very localized problem in the United States. It was like the South, and I think it got all the way up to maybe Chicago, but she said we used that as an excuse to remove that from our Mexican pizza, and then after the scare, which was maybe 6 months at best, we just kept it off the ingredients, and she goes, we saved hundreds of millions of dollars globally keeping these onions off of our pizza because they're no longer required. And people just got used to it not being there. Interesting, right? I was pretty lucky with fast food as a kid because my old man, he didn't want me eating it. It was weird because not like we had amazing alternatives at home, but we my grandmother was a real good cook, and she was always into eating really nice pure beefs and just this is organic as you can make it sort of thing. But yeah, when I remember, I used to be a Big Mac fan back in the day, I don't know about you guys, depending on how old you are. If you're 45 and over, I'll say that you remember a Big Mac when it used to taste good, And the huge shift in Big Mac taste for me was when they stopped using those styrofoam containers for the Big Macs. It used to be one of the cooler things that, as a kid, I just liked the container as much as I liked the burger. And now they use this like reconstituted cardboard that they make the little container out of. And immediately, that container just neutralizes the moisture in the burger. And so if the thing has been sitting inside the container for any length of time, it's dry as a bone, and it's just gross. It's gross anyway, but Big Macs used to be just, oh my God, used to be so utterly delicious. And the weird thing was, I don't think the beef quality was actually tremendously higher than it is today. Because I remember opening up a burger, because when I was super young, I used to eat the little cheeseburgers. And you'd open it up, and it looked like it had fossils in it, like little round fossils. And being in the Midwest, when you dig around the ground, you find little round fossils, which is like, I don't know, bisected animals from the ocean when they used to have water in the plains or something. But you'd find these in your hamburger, and you're like, there's no way I'm eating fossils. What is that stuff? And you find out later it's all the little, again, they're grinding up the whole cow. They're grinding up all the arteries. And when you see a sliced little round circle, you're seeing a sliced almost calamari of an artery. Isn't that appetizing, huh? Take a look at that burger next time you see it. So, of course, when they came out with an Angus burger for like, $5 just for the burger, then we finally had some decent level beef in a McDonald's. This thing's been great. And you can see, I think, this is starting to, the wrapper just unravels a little bit. And again, this is because most likely it wasn't kept at the right level of moisture in the humidor that I purchased it. But I'm telling you right now, it's just an aesthetic thing. You can piss and moan about it flouring out really badly. I got 4 or 5 different cracks in this thing. Doesn't matter. It's not the manufacturer's issue. It's the person who sold it to me and the fact that I just bought it yesterday and I'm smoking it today. I don't know if that sort of thing would repair if I humidate it up, but I think it would. It's not stopping the smoke. It's not stopping the flavor. In terms of body, it's just consistent all the way through. So you're not going to get any flavor transitions. It's going to be just a nice Connecticut stick. The floralness has died down because I'm getting towards the last part of this thing. So if I got another inch to go, another 15 minutes or so, and then we'll just throw this on the ground and call it quits. So again, this is a great little cheap cigar, man. Let's see if we let's study the flavor just one more time here. Yeah, it's really like it tastes like putting your nose up to a Connecticut wrapper and just smelling it. If you have a good pungent tobacco smell, right? That's really good. Not pungent. Pungent's typically reserved for tastes that make us reel back. This is just a nice pronounced flavor here. Yeah, it's a good deal. Yeah, I remember when Del Taco in the late 80s when I got into video game art, my first career in video games. We're all broke. We're not making that much money. We're all renting rooms out of people's houses and that kind of stuff. And the big deal was, this is just before the PepsiCo. I think Pepsi bought Taco Bell and announced it in 1988. And then it took them several years to swap out all the ingredients to make everything taste ionized. You know, it's what processed food is, just a huge... It's a bunch of dead ingredients that have been dead for a really long time. And when something stops metabolizing life, even wheat or meat, doesn't matter, it starts to ionize, right? So you get this sort of oxidization taste. You know, when you get ice cream in your freezer and you let it crystallize and get really old, you know, you eat it and you have this almost iron flavor to it. It's just gross. You can't taste any of the actual flavor that's been embedded into the ice cream. So same thing happens when you eat a bunch of processed food. It just sort of like it keeps your stomach from being empty, so you feel better than you did without it. Right? Remember, your stomach reports pain if it's empty. So you have sensors that if not touched, right? If the sensor isn't touched, it will report pain. That's why you get hunger pains, right? So you can put something in your body and you'll feel good. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But, you know, when those little sensors, those little nubules are trying to grab ingredients and nutrients out of the food, there's nothing there. And so when your cells divide, they've got nothing to deal with. And once you start robbing your cells of what you're made out of, which are 2/3 meat proteins and, you know, 1/3 sort of vegetation, amino acids and enzymes for your nucleic acid reproduction, it starts robbing from your body. So one of the reasons why processed food and bad food causes cancer is that your cells are going through mitosis, right? The little suitcase dividing thing, right? And your chromosomes have to recreate what they are. And if they can't find it from what you're ingesting, they'll rob it from each other. And eventually you start getting, the cell quality starts going down tremendously. And then you eventually develop in your more complex organs, tumors and weird stuff. You know, that's why you don't want to catch pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer, I think, has a 4% survival rate. Kills the best of the best, you know. And so that's why I always tell people, you know, you don't need to eat a lot of red meat, but I've had a buddy who had a PhD in nutrition, and I asked him, I said, so what's the deal? You know, what's the deal with red meat and all these people demonizing it? And he said, look, it's ridiculous. He goes, most people who are complaining about red meat have folklore in their mind about how slow it goes through your system. This whole thing of, red meat staying in your bowels for 8 years. He goes, it's absolutely ridiculous. He goes, we do colonoscopies all the time and we x-ray people's guts, and there's no way for it to hang on to any substance in your gut. Your gut's, you know, constantly modulating, and so it's always flushing everything out. But he said that, you know, most people are worried about, you know, fecal matter and the bad preparation of meat, or it being fed horrible things, you know, or being given injections or something like that, which is mainly for the milk cows. But so I asked the dude, I said, well, how much red meat do you need to eat? He goes, the best rule of thumb, he goes, obviously get the best meat you can get, But he goes, you need to eat about a piece of meat that's like the size of a deck of cards once a week. That's all you really need. And he goes, you'll really infuse your body with the materials it needs to procreate. Now, if you're working out and you're tearing your muscle a lot and that kind of thing, you're probably going to need to eat a lot more. But he also told me that, the egg yolk in an egg, the yellow part that's supposedly demonized, which since we haven't eaten a lot of those and people switch over to egg whites, they tend to get Alzheimer's because, again, your brain is made out of the cholesterol that is found in an egg yolk. It's not the only place you get it, but that's exactly a 1-to-1 correlation. 76% of your brain sponge is made out of that cholesterol you can find in an egg yolk. And when you don't eat egg yolk, your matter in your brain that's the spongy material that's holding your neurons apart from each other starts to collapse, and then these things start touching each other, and you start getting Alzheimer's, meaning you have a thought that's trying to complete by going down a street that's that thought, and it's getting sidetracked by another street that's been overlaid, so it gets sidetracked, and that's why you can't remember what the hell you're doing. One of the reasons why. Aluminum is another big bad one, right? But he also said that he eats carbohydrates once a week. This guy said, he goes, I make Sunday my carb day. And he goes, I just eat carbs, nothing else on that particular day. I just eat lots of pasta. And of course, nice pasta. Not, I don't know what bad pasta is sitting around. Pasta definitely ionizes. You keep that pasta on your shelf for months and months and months, and you'll go in there and make spaghetti once a year, and it's just you just take a look at the pasta and you've almost got this white dust on it because it is ionized out, just like the white dust on your car when your paint oxidizes. Same exact principle here. You have an overly negative charge in your food, and you want your food to be fairly alkaline, which means half positive, half negative, and that is the way your body is normally when it's alive. And when it dies, you don't have the positives being injected into the food, and that's why it oxidizes and turns ionized. And a lot of people who study animals, they believe that that's one of the reasons why animals have been genetically conditioned not to eat dead animals. And you'll see an exception every once in a while. If an animal gets really, really hungry, they become extremely feral and they'll eat anything. Your hyenas are often accused of eating really, really dead meals, and they don't. They essentially follow the other dominant species. If they're not able to kill it themselves, which they definitely are able to do it, they'll follow lions around or something. The lions get the first batch of the food when their belly's full, because typically an animal can feed an entire pack of lions and there's plenty of food left. The hyenas come in and scavenge through the carcass, right? Even vultures are said to eat really dead stuff, and they really don't. They come in afterwards, and since they're so massive, right? I mean, the wingspan of a vulture can get up to 10, 12 feet. And, animals are pretty instinctually smart about what can kick their ass. And so when this big giant thing comes down, just like they say, when a bear, certain species of bears will respond to you boasting of your size, and I forgot what it was, but there's like a grizzly bear, you're supposed to do one thing, and to another bear you're supposed to do a different thing. I'm definitely told that rolling up in a ball for one of the bear species, and I wish I remembered this, but look it up if you're around bears, but there's definitely there's grizzly bears, and then there's like black bears or something like that, but they have different programming in their brains, and I think it's the grizzly that you're supposed to stand up and make yourself as big as you possibly can. I don't know if I'm ever going to have the balls to do that. I'd have to be up against nothing, up against no way of surviving otherwise, right? You certainly can't outrun one. You can't climb up a tree better than one. So I guess if one's on you and you can't find a hole to dive into or water to get into, you're going to have to do that thing. But one of the species doesn't give a shit. You make yourself big, and it's like, oh, great, I know where I want to find the neck now. Another species doesn't fall for the old I'm dead on the ground thing. They start munching on you as soon as you roll up in a ball. So I definitely would say if you're going to be adventuring out in the open, you need to know where your rescue path is going to be, right? You need to figure out, okay, that's the stream right there, and they don't tend to swim very much, so you want to just hop in that stream and get totally buried under the water. Hold your breath, man, and swim downstream while you're underwater, no matter how shallow that thing is. Otherwise, it's coming after you. So you probably want to get water that's way over your head, or, at least you can bury yourself into it like Rambo. Bring a straw. That way you can kind of, find some bamboo, clean it out. Well, all the things you learned in this cigar review, huh? Probably all wrong, but you can have it anyway. It's free of charge. Overall, great cigar. Towards the end here, I'm getting a little bit more of the floral. No big deal. The smoke output is massive. It's still just huge. The cloud flying over there is a good 10 foot by 10 foot cube of good smoke. Flowering quite a bit at the end here, but I'm going to tell you that's strictly due to the lack of humidification on this thing. Yeah, really nice, man. Really cool. If you want to punch out of this video, totally get it. I'm going to go down another maybe 5 minutes to figure out what to ramble on about. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a bear in the wild, at least while I was on foot. But, I've seen moose, I've seen deer, I've seen coyotes, but I don't think I've ever seen a bear. I'm not even sure. It was funny because my grandmother lived in the Midwest. She said that at one point, a little tiny cub had crawled up a tree and jumped on a rooftop and would bustle across the rooftop and hop off on some other tree and run off. I find that hard to believe simply because cubs don't usually go that far from their mothers. And if the cub went on the roof, the mother would go on the roof, and that would be a whole different situation with a 800-pound bear on your roof. It would probably go through the roof in some cases. Raccoons. I've seen a mountain lion once here in California from very far away. Went to Havasu. I've been to Havasu several times. And the weird thing about Havasu is you got this desert. I mean, it's hot as hell, right? Last time I was in Havasu, it was 115 when we got there. And you'll go out there, and we push into coves, right? And they have these goats up in the hills, wild goats. And they have these little caves that they go into during the day. But they get out, and they're covered in fur. I don't know how they do it. It's 110 plus, and these things are out there covered in fur, running around on the rock tops. It's the weirdest thing. And of course, they have these little tiny hooves, which, for those of us who just try to walk on concrete with leather soles, it's a tough thing to do. And these things are made out of like calcium fingernails, right? But they, you've seen them your whole life on videos and stuff where they're able to jump on rocks, slippery rocks, and go really, really high. So, goats definitely have a low center of gravity. They understand, right? I got these hummingbirds in my backyard, and I just realized while I was recording, I keep hearing these almost lightsaber sounds, these like buzzing lightsaber sounds. And by the way, this thing's putting out so much smoke, my patio almost looks like a spook house. It's like low to the ground, and it's building up and then rolling over these bushes I've got next door here. But when these, I saw them, I don't know if they're mating or disputing space, but the hummingbirds get to this point where they're going at each other, and they're, it doesn't really look, they are touching, it looks like, every once in a while, but when they're in this hyper mode of confronting each other, there's something going on where they change the frequency of their wingspan or something, and it's like this crazy buzzing lightsaber noise. And I had them go over my head a few weeks ago, and I was like, what the hell's that noise, And I just finally looked over during the beginning of the recording over here, and I saw them going at it, and I was hearing it. It's probably 20 feet away, and I can still hear this crazy buzzing noise. Oh, for those of you who have hummingbird feeders, maybe you already know that, but hummingbirds, everywhere I move in California, there's always a hummingbird nest somewhere nearby, even up in the Bay Area. Crazy. Well, I think that's it. Again, as far as inexpensive, great Connecticut cigars, this is not going to be my go-to. This is the JM's Dominican cigar. Again, I paid $280 for this without taxes. I'm sure if I got this in a box, it'd be nothing. This was a torpedo, probably about the length of a Toro, and just a fantastic smoke, man. So hats off to JM's brand. They really are delivering fantastic cigars. And again, this blows away the $10 Christoph I just did. So thank you, JM's, for making great, inexpensive cigars. So I'll see you in the next review. And again, we're working on the format, working on the channel. This is a work in progress. Eventually, we'll lock this whole thing down. I'm going to be experimenting with an idea of, and I didn't format this one particularly properly because this is a pretty quick cigar and pretty monotone, right? So I was pretty much done with the review way at the beginning. It's accurate all the way at the beginning. But for the ones that are going to transition, I'm going to do probably a post edit of the whole thing and then bumper that on the beginning, so you get essentially like your 60-second review at the beginning, and you can punch out as soon as you want. If you need a partner to smoke with you, this is your go-to. This is the difference in this format, is the real-time cigar review. It helps me do something while I'm smoking as opposed to just throwing away the time messing around. So anyway, if you enjoyed, hope you dig it. If this is the new channel, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, comment. I guess I hate marketing bullshit. I guess if you like and you comment, it pushes up the organic search in YouTube. I'm not going to create a controversy you need to reply to, but that's the deal. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next review. Over now.